Hello everyone. For today's demo portion, I'll be covering the setup of the thermal camera and also just a few other, covering such as like the AI, the fusion that you see here, the overlay, all the other, advanced features that are included with this specific camera. So the first thing we'll do here is, as you can see, it is a dual lens camera itself. You have one regular lens and then one bispectrum lens, which you would use for your fire smoke detection, heat detection, and measuring heat levels, depending on what you set up for your AI. So as you can see, you have both channels here. Then we can go into the remote setting. And the first thing I'll show you is the image settings. So for the first lens, which is just your basic, regular color view image, nothing too special with this one. You do have all of your basic settings, which you have on any other camera in our AIBASE product line. But if you go and select channel number 2 here, you'll see it's our thermal. So the main thing that we want to focus on is the palette. So we go here to palette. This is where you can change your overlay. Like for example, the most common one that we see out there with thermal cameras typically is your white hot. So you'll see a black and white image, depending on the heat signature. Typically, the hotter the object is, they'll appear white in the camera view. But you do have a wide variety of different options to choose from. You can do green, the fusion with different colors. Yeah, there's many that you can choose from depending on your environment. So this, again, it really just depends on where you're installing the camera, the environment, and finding what works best for your setup. And then once you have that done, that's all set up, that's good to go. We can move over to the event settings. So just like Austin mentioned previously, you do have AI on both lens of the camera. So for the main lens, which is just your basic color image, we can do human and vehicle. That is the most common one used by installers and integrators for their projects. But since this is a more advanced camera, maybe you want to do something like loitering. Let's say you have it in a back lot using a thermal camera. You can enable loitering, do your loitering detection, so you can do up to 1800 seconds. Whenever the target or person or vehicle, whatever the case may be, is in your loitering zone for that specified amount of time, it'll trigger the deterrence on the camera. So you have all of the full AI suite for the first lens. Then moving into your thermal lens, the two main things that you want to focus on is your fire detection, which we can enable here. You could also change the sensitivity. So the sensitivity would just mostly be based on the distance. So if you have objects that you want to monitor that are further away, you will want to increase the sensitivity up. If it's a little bit closer to the camera, then you can decrease it. Again, just all depends on the placement. The other thing that we'll want to take a look at, which I would say is the most important, is your temperature measurement. So we can go ahead and enable that one as well. And then here, all of these settings are mainly like your on-screen displays. So you can display your temperature information on the stream, display your max temperature that you set, your minimum temperature, the average, spot temperature, and then you have more advanced settings here. So you could change your distance in feet, temperature range. You have here two different options. So by default, it's in Fahrenheit, and then you can change it to Celsius and Kelvin. And then another thing is the area. So what this basically is, so if we click on add, we can enable a specific targeting zone. So we can click on enable. You can do a point. So what that means is you just click anywhere on the screen and it'll monitor that specific target point that you have set. Another thing you can do is align. So anywhere across this line, let's say it's like a factory assembly line, and you want to monitor that specific zone, it'll do that. And then the other option is area. So let's say we want to monitor these cars here. Let's see, so you click your first point, and then you drag it around the cars. So now we can do that. And then you have your zone set, and you see we have emissivity. So basically what that means is the camera will measure how well a target or object, the surface radiates heat. So depending on how, again, the distance, how far it is from the camera, you may want to increase it or decrease it depending on, again, the distance. So that'll just give you the reading based on how the heat is radiating off of the surface of these cars, for example. and then you also have the distance as well. So we can go ahead and click on save. And then as you can see, we now have the temperature bar on the right side. So you have your maximum temperature and your minimum. And then if we go back into the live view, you can also see it appears on the regular lens as well. So it does give you a max temperature that reading that was recorded in this area, a minimum temperature reading in this area, and then the average temperature reading. And you can do multiple points as well. It's not tied to just one specific one. So you can do, if we go back to it, you can do, let's say ID number 1 is this box, add another one, and you want to do a point area. So let's say we want to measure the temperature of the road here. So you can click on there, click save. Now you'll start getting temperature readings of the road, and then we can do a third one. Let's just say we want to do a line reading. So click on line, save it, and you have that reading there as well. So all of these points can be customized and configured to however you would like. And then you have your alarm linkage. So you can set up your deterrents as well. So your notifications, which is, again, we talked about in our previous episodes, which are your webhooks. You have your sirens and your warning lights. And for those asking, the camera can function standalone. So all of this AI for the heat detection, smoke and fire, image sensing, getting your temperature readings, all of this can be done directly on the camera. You just put an SD card in there and deploy it for standalone. And that would conclude today's demo portion for the thermal camera.